That seems a bit crazy why that exists. Because to me, if I didn't know too much about the area, my initial thought would be, okay, which athletes I'm viewing have the most potential. I'm not looking at if they're the finished article there and then if they're in the under 14s or under 16s. The key thing is how much potential do they have. So the fact that they are judging them based on what they see in front of them rather than what they see plus what could be just seems incredibly narrow-minded, even if you are not too familiar with how maturation affects athletic development.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, you and me both know talent ID is a big rabbit hole. So, I think this is something that some people have written quite well on. Is are we identifying talent in its current form, or are we trying to identify future talent or future performance? Because if we're identifying based on the metrics, we show up and we do, a physical testing day and we get all the kids to sprint and run and jump and all that kind of stuff. And we go, okay, these are the results. These guys are the best. We'll take them. Well, are we assessing future performance or are we assessing current performance? Well, we're clearly assessing current performance, right? But if you look at the research, we know that there's a pretty tenuous link between youth level performance and senior level performance. If it was better, then you would only, your England under 18 would become your England under 21 team, who would become your England full, senior team. You don't need to look at a few teams to figure out that's not the case. If you look back through, for example, who wins the junior football World Cups, you'd be very surprised. Yeah. So some of the teams that win the junior football World Cups have never won a senior World Cup. Well, if talent was linear, they would, right? That team would go on to become the next team, and it would just be this very nice, logical, stepwise pattern. And that's just simply not what happens. And the reason for that is that maturation, physical maturation certainly, is not linear, and it's not rhythmical. Like it goes in fits and starts and spurts. So there's a really great graphic that I like to use when I'm doing kind of coach education stuff, and it's that kind of cliche graph of what people think success is versus what it looks like. And I'm like, that's growth and maturation. People think it's like this. Go up in nice segmental, even lines. It's like forwards, backwards, side to side. Like you suddenly have a growth spurt, it slows down, then maybe you have a little bit more. But, when you think about that from a talent perspective, that kid who's having a massive growth spurt, and his arms and legs are 6 inches from where he left them 6 weeks ago, he now can't catch a ball because his brain hasn't recalibrated to this new lever length. He can't sprint in a straight line because his brain can't organize these limbs anymore. So we also basically need to be more understanding of what's happening with youth athletes as an organism. And the best way I describe this to coaches is it's a melting pot. There's this amazing fusion going on of physical growth, of sexual maturation, of motor development, of psychological development. Like there's so many things. It's like a Rubik's Cube. We're all, trying to figure out what's going on. And all these systems are developing at different rates, at different speeds. The tempo between two individuals could be completely different. So you could shoot up 10 centimeters this year. I might not grow at all, but I might grow 2 centimeters a year for the next 5 years. And actually, there's a bit around, if you get tricked into choosing that early developer that shot up, you might have basically picked him when he's pretty much finished growing. Whereas that late developer in the background, who's kind of almost like slow and consistent, he might actually overtake that first guy. But because it's more slow and steady, you don't notice it. It's not as a rapid increase in height. So what you typically see is that the early maturers kind of finish maturing earlier. So they might be initially taller, for example, but the later maturers, it's kind of stretched out over a longer period of time. So they might actually end up being taller. So you've picked your goalkeeper at the age of 15 because he's 6'2", thinking he's going to get to 6'5". He's finished growing. But that guy you didn't pick who was 5'9" is now 6'4". Who would you have rather taken?